And if they said I'd find you beyond the rainbow's end, I would have said impossible, impossible, my friend, to dream about what might have been is strange enough for me, but now it seems I'm living in a dream too beautiful to be. And if they said moving could calm a stormy sea, I would have said impossible, impossible for me to dream about what might have been is strange enough for me, but now it seems I'm living in a dream too beautiful to be, to be. And if they said could calm a stormy sea, I would have said impossible. But now at last I see nothing is
My guest tonight, he's one of the idols of my life. He's here in person.
I'm Edward Asner. You can see them at the finest places, well-bred, highly trained, and diligent at their work. They're guide dogs, enabling blind people to enjoy greater freedom and independence. And the law permits them everywhere that's open to the public. To learn more, call the Guide Dog Foundation for the Blind, toll-free, 1-800-548-4337. That's 1-800-548-4337.
It has been said of Steve Allen that this is a man that does so many things. He could be listed on every page of the Yellow Pages. Steve Allen is the original wild and crazy guy. He's a comedian, a composer, an author, an innovator, a grandfather, and certainly my childhood idol. I cannot believe he's here at Public Access Television, but he is, because his office is up the block. Hi, Steve.
Hi.
How
so
are
nice
you?
to see you again.
God bless you. I can't believe you. You know, you're my first interview that I ever did in my whole life, so I was completely gone.
Well, I hope I'm not your last. Very nice compliment, though. You paid me.
I was saying to people, what kind of death wish did I have interviewing Steve Allen as my first guest?
That's funny.
Should I maybe interview a fellow Express guy and work my way up to Steve Allen?
I have often said with my own mouth that asking other people questions is not the toughest gig in the world, and it isn't, because people have been doing it for ever since there were people, you know, 1 million years or so. Somebody came out of a cave and blinked and said, hey, it's pretty bright today, isn't it? And somebody said, yep, and that's all there is to interviewing people.
Right,
Really.
they danced around and wrote on the walls and went home.
Yes, well, then they invented cue cards that day, but that's further development.
The song I just did of yours, Impossible, we were talking about that on the break, and of course it's from the show The Bachelor that you wrote.
Yes, it was my first musical. It's the score from which also came "This Could Be the Start of Something Big."
One of your greatest hits.
Oh, thank you.
Now, you said you never heard a bad version of Impossible. Was that
No,
Would this be the first bad one you had?
No, I wouldn't have brought it up if it were.
Well,
I just
thank
would have
you.
skipped over the point. No, it's a song that singers, especially if they like to do ballads, have always done well. I literally have never heard a bad version of it.
It's, as I said, written for a singer. The chords, the vowels, everything. It's just, need I go on? Goodbye. This interview's over. There's no more to say. This is the guy of the moment. You know, I wanted to, of course, Steve's got the new book out. It's called Reflections by Prometheus Books. And you can go out and get this. I suggest you run out. And I was sitting in bed for the last 2 weeks. In fact, I ate this book for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I took the cover off and put it in a safe, you know, in some wax paper so it wouldn't get damaged. Because I read this book, I highlighted everything, and I said, where would be a good place to start? And I couldn't decide, so I just went like this right now, and it came to this.
Believe it or not, that's actually a good way to do it, because it's a collection of philosophical observations that have occurred to me over the last half-century or so. And since there's neither a beginning or end except by, you know, convenience, they had to put it in some order, so they made that alphabetical. You can literally dip into it anywhere.
Yeah, I was doing that after a while. I was just going, okay. And this is great. May I? May I read this?
I don't know what you're going to do, but it's all right. If it's in the book, I'll stand by it.
It's good. Everything in show business these days is tape editing and film cutting. No matter how inept a thing is in the shooting, there is the belief that it can be fixed in the cutting room. Wouldn't it be great if our lives were so? At the end of it, just before you check out, you cut out everything that didn't work. That first marriage, the whole 19 years, it's out. Boom. Your brother-in-law who borrowed $14,000 and never paid back a penny, he's out of the tape. The 4 years you spent working in Cleveland at the ad agency that folded, edited out. So finally you have 74 years of tape cut down to a nice, tight 51-year life. And it's this edited version that you take to the great projection room in the sky, and God looks at it, reviews it, and maybe gives you a better break. Now this is a reflection of Steve Allen. This is what I grew up loving.
Well, thank you.
And, you know, you created the show business I wanted to be in. You know, when I saw Edie Gourmet come out in Pillars, you know, with a dress, a dress, not a T-shirt cut off, and sing a beautiful song, I said, oh, I want to do that. Or it was Leslie Uggams or any of the other great singers that I admire. And then I grew up and it was rap. And I said, hello.
Well, I congratulate you seriously on wearing a dress and having Greek pillars. They indicate class, and that's why they've always been used at the beginning of, since the beginning of television, to lend that touch to countless shows.
Is that really true?
I don't know. Yes, of course it is. No, I just did that to get a laugh. From who?
The makeup lady's here. From who? So, you know,
make up another lady for me, if you would.
There's a great poem called, and we'll go right into death, one of my favorite subjects.
Death.
Because I die every month when I come here to do the show. And there, on page 92, I memorized the page, is a beautiful poem called If I Died, and it brings me to tears, and every time I want a good cry, I read this poem. So I've been crying a lot. I'm puffy. I'm retaining water. Yeah. So,
it's better than letting it go, I suppose. But would you like me to read it?
I would love if you
all
did.
Right. It's a serious poem, and we're horsing around like... anyway, go. It's called If I Died, from the picture Stand By. Got to knock that up. Seriously, why my index finger is up in the air, I have no idea, so we'll put that back in my pocket. I would not care much if I died, except that there are poems I shall not have time to read, and rivers I shall not have time to bathe in, that there are stars beyond my power of sight, lost blue seas I shall never sail, lips never kissed, and morning chimes in sunny cities I shall not awake in. This is the only reason to fear death, that far too much of life is left unlived, that certain symphonies will go unheard, some mountain snows will melt before one sees them. Whatever is left when I decay will be, I promise you, a mighty, bursting wild desire. I wrote that when I was very young.
How old were you when you wrote that?
6. But all seriousness aside, no, I was about 28 or so when I wrote that.
That is young, to have that kind of reflection,
the
book, and deep thought. You were always a real deep thinker, aren't you?
Long before there was a Jack Handy, I had deep thoughts.
You say here on page 67, my own creative work flows most freely. Say that 3 times fast. If I simply decide to delay judgmental decisions until a later date at which time I can function freely as editor of the earlier output. To be self-critical at the moment an idea is developing is to inhibit the full expression of it.
Yeah.
And we as artists do that, don't we?
Well, many people do, whether they're in the formal arts or not, and it's a thing you should stop. You always can later, as I suggest here, look at the thing you've created, whether it's a poem, a song, a letter to your cousin, or whatever it is, and say, you know, that's pretty bad and I'm going to tear it up or burn it right now. You have that freedom. But to do that at the moment the thing is coming out of your mind is wrong. So stop that.
So even if it's not something you like afterwards, the paper can be crumpled.
Yes, the point could be so construed. But the main thing is do not inhibit yourself while the creativity is flowing.
And I was watching you, we said this on the other show, and people always kid you about it. You're constantly recording.
Well, I have the ability to record at any given moment. I have this little machine in my pocket. Unfortunately, it's a shaver. So
It's fabulous, and it crushes ice. It's a great device.
yeah.
I like that. Tim Conway was interviewed. They did a wonderful, I thought, a biography about you.
Oh, the Arts and Entertainment Channel.
Loved it, loved it. I
Very
thought it
nice.
was one of the best things that I've ever seen on you.
Oh,
and
thank
Tim Conway was talking about this, and he said, you'll say, hi, how are you? Hi. And then you go home and write the show, hi, how are you? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I do all my writing by that means. In seriousness, all my books, my songs, everything is on tape.
What did you do when you started out? You know, I do a radio show every day, 3 hours a day. I drive to Santa Clarita to the desert, and I try to
Wow.
speak. Yeah, and it's an invaluable experience.
The drive or the show?
The drive is a real hassle, and I didn't have AC, but I got another car, but that's another show. Okay.
Talk
and the
about a long
payment.
cord. Or don't talk about it, I don't care.
Segway school. Where was I, Steve?
Sitting right over there.
Sit over here. Okay, here I am. The radio, and I know you started on radio, of course. You did Smile Time.
Yes, in 1946 and 7, I was doing with my then partner, a fellow named Wendell Noble.
Was that your first
First what?
show? First
no,
radio show?
No, I'd been in radio for some time. That was my first network show.
Yes.
But anyway, after those 2 years, I knew a lot more about writing jokes than I did when that started. And it was a great stepping stone. And if you've ever,
Stepped on a stone. I know, Steve.
you know how
don't
painful
think.
that can be, right?
I've watched far too much Steve Allen. I'm growing glasses. It's very intense. Anyway, and you've been married. Now, how was that to keep that?
It's pretty nice.
It's nice, and your
Yeah.
wife is gorgeous.
She is
Would
indeed.
she ever do this, even if I brought the pillars and some flowers? Would she?
We'll never know unless you invite her. I would
Okay.
imagine she'd be happy
I
to.
will engrave an
and
invitation.
she loves flowers.
You
She
must
ha-
take these to her.
Oh, no, I wouldn't do that.
It's
but
good. You take them to her.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very sweet. Well, then she'll never show up.
No,
'cause
absolutely not.
She might come here if you offered her flowers. No, seriously, she has, as we say, a green thumb and a purple foot, and her whole body is discolored hideously. It's a brown, well, no, that would I didn't mean that. Strike that from my
Don't
mouth.
go there, Steve.
No.
You said of your wife that you believe she is
My
one
wife.
of America's greatest actresses, and she indeed is. On Meeting of Minds,
Yeah, I think that was established by what she did on Meeting of Minds. The only, well, the most difficult point, I should say, with doing that show, which, by the way, was a talk show, but all the guests were important figures from history, the only real difficulty we had was in casting. In London, we could have cast 9 years of that show over one weekend because the English actors and actresses are accustomed to performing in the grand manner.
Yeah.
Many of them naturally speak in it, as a matter of fact. But Americans tend to be better at playing cowboys and Chicago cab drivers and New York serial killers. So they're marvelous in many respects, but not if you're trying to cast Thomas Aquinas, you know,
Exactly.
or Socrates. So we did use a lot of foreign actors for that. But to get back to Jane, she was offered every single woman's role during the 4 years of that run.
Cleopatra?
Yeah.
Now, was it true you were going to divorce her if she didn't
No,
play
that was a joke.
Okay, because she really was serious about it. She convinced
Yeah,
me.
she thought I was serious. But she played, as you say, Cleopatra, Marie Antoinette, totally different performance. Florence Nightingale at the age of 95.
In a wheelchair and hunched over.
Yeah.
Well, you would be if you were 95.
It helps, yes. And Catherine the Great of Russia, with
Yes.
Russian accent, of course. Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And the remarkable thing about those performances is that they were unique. Each one was unlike the others. And there's literally no other American actress, if there is, please call me and tell me,
Call us.
who
my
could have
number.
played all of those roles. And we have some fine actresses, but they could not have played all of those roles, as Jane did.
And at the same time, she's managed to be such a support to you in your life and involved in her own career. And a mom and a grandma. And how did
Yeah.
she do all that?
She
She did it way before it was trying to get figured out how to do it.
Right, yeah, she has gifts of that sort. I think most people who excel, whether it's at being a mother or a sculptor or an architect or whatever, start out with some genetic endowment. I'm quite serious
You
about
go
that.
into that in the book,
Ah,
about your creativity.
Good. If I didn't, I should have.
Yeah.
So some people just have advantages, and we all, of course, have disadvantages. Just because I do 7 or 8 things well, I got a list of 9,000 things I'm lousy at. And
What?
I mean that
Give me one.
I have no mechanical aptitude whatever. I cannot put a nut and a bolt together without hurting myself. If I'm driving and I get a flat, that's it. I'd stop and rent a room someplace. You know. I can do nothing about that flat except look at it and go,
Gee.
there she goes. You know. I can't take the nuts or the bolts off or any of that stuff. So I'm literally not just average in that regard. I am below average. I'm handicapped at mechanical tasks.
Okay, we'll go with that one. Give me one more. There can't be too many that you're not good at.
Sex.
Well, and that'll wrap it for this edition of As the Stomach Turns. Yeah.
I'm not a good painter. I think everyone should try everything as long as it's legal, and therefore I have tried painting, and sure enough, I was pretty bad at it.
I guess, you know,
I
Tony
also play
Bennett.
the trumpet the worst. Have you ever heard me play the horn?
No, we don't have a horn. We should have one for you.
Well, if you want lousy, boy, I can give it to you. I would have been better if I'd, you know, kept my chops up and practiced, but you cannot play the trumpet every 4 years and expect to,
Right,
you know,
excel.
do it too well when it comes up.
Tell me about the song you're going to sing for us.
Well, it's a song that grew out of a story a fellow told me. I'll try to shorten it here. It's a true story, by the way. A friend of mine named Charlie Andrews ran into a middle-aged man, about 55, and he had been going with a young woman in her late 20s, and everybody loved the combination. They seemed ideally suited to each other. And so Charlie ran into him, and he said, "How's Barbara?" And the guy said, "We're not together anymore." And Charlie said, "Oh, that's too bad. What happened?" And this is what the man actually said. She didn't know the tunes,
Oh, yeah.
didn't know the songs. So that gave me the idea for this song, which takes that thought and makes it a positive statement. It's called "I Love You," because you've heard of Lester Young.
You know, my fiance, of course, is the pianist.
Yeah.
And we'll go to
One of the
gigs and
greats, by the way.
One of the greats, Brian O'Rourke.
Yes, and the drummer is one of the ingrates, but you know, many people feel.
And we'll go to gigs and I'll say, "Isn't she beautiful? Isn't that girl beautiful? Don't you want, you know, sing?" He plays for these great singers.
Yeah.
And he'll say, "Yeah, but she can't sing over the rainbow."
Ah,
You know, so there really is something to that.
Right.
Now, we're going to get to hear Steve Allen. I can't imagine that he came to public access TV to help me in my journey toward absolute nothingness.
actually, I didn't. I had a flat outside, and I came in here looking for sucker.
So we're going
They
to go
said,
to
"Hi,
Steve
sucker,
Allen
how
right
are you?"
now. After this.
This is a song I wrote literally during the intermission of one of those Dick Gibson jazz concerts up in Denver a few years ago. The lyric expresses the ideas of a mature gentleman, shall we say, speaking to a somewhat younger woman. It's called "I Love You Because You've Heard of Lester Young." I love you because you heard of Lester Young. I love you because you remember Charlie Parker. At your age, there aren't many who remember Bix or Benny, but you're hip to almost any of those names. I like you because you love the Basie band. You're special for knowing Louis and the Duke. And baby, when we dance to songs of sweet romance, we're cheek to cheek, my arms around your waist. Ah, lady, how I love you for your taste. And the melody. because you've heard of Lady Day. I dig you for knowing Woody and the herd. And baby, when we dance to songs of sweet romance, we're cheek to cheek, my arms around your waist. Ah, lady, how I love you for your taste. Yeah, thank you, gentlemen.
Steve, who was Lester Young?
He
I
played-
know who he is, of course.
He played second base for the Chicago White Sox,
Yeah.
and he got into a
Had a lisp, you
fight
know.
once with Zeke Benura, and then they went on the road with Charlie Barnett. It's a very ugly story.
Lester Young, of course, was the great saxophone.
Oh yes. No, I thought you were kidding about being serious. I mean,
I had a dream like this once.
yeah, he was great. Do you like Scott Hamilton?
Scott Hamilton, of course, we know Scott.
Then you love Lester Young.
Well, you know what? We think the world of you here. I adore you.
Thank
we
you.
love you very much.
Thank you, and I
Thank
love
you
all
for
the
coming.
Pappases.
Do you?
Oh yes.
Irene, my distant aunt from another life.
Anybody named Pappas, they're all right in my book.
Oh, God
This is
bless
my
you.
book, by the way, that they're
One
all
more
right.
time. The book, we got 2 copies if you need them. Give me a call. Make an outreach call. Reflections by Steve Allen, published by Prometheus Books. And it's really a great read. You can literally just open and point and get a great thought for the day. Shall I do that right now?
Whatever you want. Sure.
Okay. Please let it be good. There is no natural justice in the universe. It's very zen. Actually, Steve says this great thing. He said, on exercise, half the yoga is better than no yoga at all, which I think wraps it all up. And I
Here
wanna
I'm laughing
thank
at my own material.
Thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you, love.
God
It's
bless
always
you.
great to see you.
We'll
I'll come
take
back.
these to Jane.
Oh, to hell with her. But
She'll
you know many
inhale
people
it.
too. No, I'll be very happy to do this. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Steve Allen. You can go away now. I'll be out of your hair. Cutting. All right, fine. Stay on me. I like it.
Perhaps your future's up in the air. And you just don't know it. Aim high. Air Force.
Where's my camera? Just wave. Is that my camera? Okay. Tom Snyder, hi. This is me, Kelly Pappas, your biggest fan. But I am dieting. I'm retaining so much water lately. I'm trying to get down to my original weight, 7 pounds, 2 ounces. This is funny stuff, Tom. Yes. I prepared this song because I know you're leaving for CBS, and I just love you. I just think you're it. And this goes out to you. This is my personal little postcard from Kelly and Toluca Lake. I can never get through on the CNBC line. What'll I do when you are far away and I am blue? What'll I do? What'll I do when I am wondering who is watching you? What'll I do? What'll I do with just a photograph to tell my troubles to? I love your hair, no matter what they say. When I'm alone with only dreams of you, they won't come true. What'll I do? Now, Tom Tom, you know, I just signed a cable deal, too. Yeah, after phone calls back and forth, almost having a nervous breakdown, I am going to have HBO and Showtime in my house by September. It's funny stuff. I'm ahead of my time. What'll I do with just your photograph? This is my favorite. To tell my troubles to. When I'm alone with only dreams of you that won't come true. I want to sing on your show, Tom. Just think of me as Kathy Lee Gifford with a thyroid condition. What'll I do? I want to thank my guest, Mr. Steve Allen, and I love you, Tom Snyder. Call me.